if you guys did not watch that last Cavs game, Cavs Thunder, hope that you did, because that game was sick. The ratings did really, really good, despite it not being like LeBron versus Steph or KD versus Steph or whoever, right? Two very good teams, the best two teams actually, and they're playing again a week later. So I want to talk about what we learned from the first one, what we can learn from the second one, how it can change, how it could be the same potentially, and then what are the implications of like who wins, who loses, what happens there. First off, I love this Cavs team. I want to give flowers to Cleveland, and they made a coaching change. And now everything seems to be better. They basically had the same roster. Last year, I believe it was JB Bickerstaff. Don't know the guy personally, but did he do the greatest job with the too big situation? No, because then everyone was like, oh, we need to get Jared Allen or Evan Mobley out, and then we can move on from there. That wasn't the case. They're on pace to win 70 games this year, which hasn't been done in a couple seasons since the 73-90 Warriors. Has anybody won 70 games since Warriors broke the record? I don't think so. I can't think of a team. If someone did, let me know, but that's pretty big news. I feel like we'd remember that. That's a pretty good team to only lose like 12 games. I want to give them flowers for sticking with their guys. They drafted Darius Garland. They drafted Evan Mobley. Made a trade for Jared Allen. And Jared Allen, don't get me wrong, he was like cool in Brooklyn, but he was always like it's the fro who gets the blocks. Like that's what he is. But he was an all-star one year. He probably should be an all-star this year. They got Donovan Mitchell. They traded a lot of their pieces to get Donovan Mitchell. This guy's balling out. Not that he's scoring 35 points a game, but he is their guy. He's their main guy. Him and Garland, a great backcourt. Him Mobley and Allen, a great front court. And then they have a bunch of role players. Some of the best role players in the league. They acquired Donovan Mitchell 2022. I'm going to kind of go back how they built this team. They got Donovan Mitchell 2022, despite the trade rumors from like recently, from like last year, the year before that. They have risen to the top of the East, and that's with a defending championship Celtics. Now, I've talked about the Celtics and been like, hey, if you're a defending champion, you normally don't go win the amount of games you won the first time because you're not necessarily you're trying as hard, but you're like, hey, we're going to go back to the finals, and it's going to be okay, so we don't need to go win 65 games. The Celtics are already, I think they have 11 or 12 losses. I think they're at maybe 10 or 11. They're around the 11 range, so they're not going to hit that 70-game mark, which is not that big of a deal. They're probably half the season in, and so they might get to 62 wins. Who knows? I think they got 64 last year. I'm pretty sure they got 64. So, despite that, I think if the Celtics were trying hard and they didn't win a championship last year and they were pushing hard in the regular season, not saying that they're not, but you understand where I'm coming from. The Cavs would still be ahead of them just because of how insanely they're playing. Best offense in the league, Donovan Mitchell, I think he's been playing okay recently. I mean, he had 35 last night, but they've only had 5 losses. So get what you want from that, I guess. In 2021, they traded for Jared Allen. He's an all-star the next season. Also in 2021, they drafted Evan Mobley 3rd, which is a big deal because it had like Scotty Barnes and Jalen Suggs, who at the time were like maybe bigger names. I've actually not met Evan Mobley, but I walked past him. I was shooting I used to shoot highlight reels and stuff, and so I walked past him at a game, and I was like, oh, crap. And I'm 6'5". Like that's not tiny, brother. So I mean, having a 7-footer and he was in All Team USA, we were like, whoa, is that Evan Mobley? And it was. So cool dude. Never talked to him. I don't know why I said that, but and then back in 2019, drafted Darius Garland 5th, and the progression for this dude is real because I could not find where. I couldn't go back in the Wayback Machine or something like that. I couldn't go back and find where I saw this, but I remember Darius Garland was the worst player in the NBA. Like, the bottom guy. He was the worst player in the NBA at the time, which is insane. Couldn't find it. But it's amazing to me that he even made an all-star team. If I'm him and you're like, hey, I'm the worst player in the league, that sucks, and you rise up to be an all-star, that's select like top 15, top 20 guys in the league. That's crazy. And he might do it again this year. I hope that he does again this year. I hope that it's not like, I know Tyrese Maxey, Paul George, and Embiid, you're getting votes. I don't think any of them should be an all-star this year. Embiid hasn't played enough. Paul George just sucks right now. And Maxey's cool, but an all-star over a guy who is like the second, maybe the second guy, third guy on a, probably second guy on a 70-win pace team. I mean, and there's other guards like Jalen Brunson who've been playing well. Damian Lillard's been playing well. Halliburton's like, Trae Young's like, I would put Mitchell and Darius Garland in the all-star, not starters, but all-star conversation 100%. So, shout out. I just want to give the flowers to the Cavs team. I cannot believe where they've come from that. You started out with Darius Garland. Oh, man, that was trash. And you had some other guys that you tried to work out, but it didn't really work out. Made the trade, drafted well, and stuck with your guys, right? That's something that not a lot of people are doing right now. Shout out Brad Beal. I just really want this team to have 4 All-Stars because I think that they are really, really good. And like the Celtics, they had good players, but 4 All-Stars, like Drew Holiday is not there anymore. Derek White isn't that level of like an All-Star. He's shooting well, but he's not. There's a level of I don't want to say aura. I don't want to say aura, but there's a level of like aura that you have to be an All-Star. And I think 4 guys on this Cavs team have it. And growing up, especially when, the Hawks with Jeff Teague, Paul Millsap, Kyle Korver, and Al Horford, they had 4 All-Stars as well. And this is kind of like a similar situation almost. So if they can have 4 All-Stars, I say why not Cleveland have 4 All-Stars as well? They're the best team in the NBA, one of the best record-wise that we've seen in a decade. And I wanted to have 4 All-Stars because this isn't especially just about fan votes. Half of it's fan votes, 25% media, 25% players. So hopefully the players in the media can come through and be like, yeah, hey, Tyrese Maxey isn't an All-Star. Give it to Jalen, give it to Jalen Brunson, but give it to Darius Garland. Give it to Donovan Mitchell. Evan Mobley's balling out. I said when I was watching the game, I said like, hey man, if J-Dub is an All-Star, Evan Mobley should be an All-Star as well. 100%. That guy came in clutch. Great player. Love watching him play. I love watching him play at USC as well. I think the players in the media should reward such a historic team. I mean, this team is like flickering on a 73-9 pace. Like it's been there at that pace a couple times throughout the season, which is just unreal. Like 73-9 for a team that doesn't have any necessarily like generational type players. It's straight buckets, dude. Straight winning. It's crazy. And they've beaten the best teams. It has not been like just a schedule thing. You don't get a 34-5 record just from like having an easy schedule. No. This is Kenny Atkinson has done a phenomenal job. Got great players, and I think that's why they should have 4 All-Stars. Anyways, enough about them. Let's talk about the preview of the game on Thursday because we learned a lot. I learned a lot from watching the game last week. I think we can apply some of these things to this next game. So, the game preview. So, it was a very close game. 30 lead changes, 8 ties. Honestly, a very simple way to win. And if you watch the NBA for a decent amount of time and you watched it at like the high level, the playoffs, stuff like that, you'll understand that these things make a big difference. So, the Cavs won, and I want to talk about the categories of the stats that they won, kind of, because that says a lot about how to win. So they made more threes than OKC. They shot a better percentage from 3 than OKC. They had more defensive and offensive rebounds than OKC. And they had less fouls than OKC. So, given the fact that I read those stats out and the winning team has some of the most important, like rebounding is always a big deal in the NBA. Shooting not more threes, or they made more threes than OKC, but they also shot it at a higher clip. So that's a big deal. And then having less fouls. So if you're going to be like, hey, we're a team who doesn't have as many rebounds, we have more fouls, and we're shooting less from 3. Does that sound like a winning formula? Not really. Not saying that that's all that it takes to win a game, but that we see it's right there. There's a bunch of lead changes and stuff, and iHeart having a bunch of fouls down the stretch doesn't help. Now, the double bigs were freaking balling. I love that so much. That was so dope. I'm a big double big guy. Big double big guy. Heck yeah. The Cavs still had more turnovers, worse free throw percentage, and worse field goal percentage, but that's just because of Donovan Mitchell. And I will talk about this. The reason why I think the Cavs can win this game, even though it's an OKC, is Donovan Mitchell shot 3 for 16, fam. Like, straight up. 3 for 16 in this game. If Donovan Mitchell has like an average, maybe a slightly below average shooting night. This game is they lose or they win by like 10 or 12. Not to mention they put up 129 points in the best defense in the NBA, which limits people to barely over 100 points a game. Scored 129 points. Best offense for the best defense. Crazy. But the Donovan Mitchell thing, I think evens out a little bit when Max Strus hit 5 3-pointers. Like every time he got the ball, it was just like lights out. It was awesome. Ty Jerome came in and was able to like have the I was gonna say relieve some scoring from Donovan Mitchell, but he wasn't really doing a whole lot out of that in the first place. But he was able to come down off the bench and secure a couple buckets. Let the main backcourt take a breather. Darius Garland was kind of off ball. I think this pushed Darius Garland towards the end of the game. He had like back-to-back and one floaters. Like that guy, he was attacking the paint. And I don't want to say it's because, oh man, I was rested because Ty Jerome was going crazy. I don't know about that, but that's what it looked like. Ty Jerome came out the bench and gave a couple buckets, had a couple steals. It was a good time. So, if we flip it for the Thunder, what do the Thunder need to win this game? So, OKC was in foul trouble, so obviously you change that. It's going to be a lot better. You get out of foul trouble, especially when the other team's in the bonus, and they're shooting free throws for every foul you have. Down the stretch, it gets kind of tough. I mean, this ballooned to, I think the Cavs won by 7, their largest lead of the game. At the very end of the game, Thunder kind of just gave up because they were fouling. Cavs go to the free throw line. Here we go. Not to mention, like I just said, Garland had like 2 and 1 back-to-back. So, flip the scenario. So, Lou Dort didn't really have a good shooting night, but he was kind of keeping Donovan Mitchell off. So, imagine if Lou Dort has a good shooting night and their shooter, like Max Strus, Isaiah Joe, if Isaiah Joe hits 5 or 6 3-pointers, what does that do, right? So that can happen. And imagine Aaron Wiggins being the Ty Jerome coming off the bench and getting a couple buckets, getting a couple steals. Both teams have the exact same kind of players, like the winning players. And so I could see it going both ways. This is a home game for OKC. And so Aaron Wiggins could come off the bench and give a couple clutch buckets. And then, okay, Shea, last 5 minutes, let's roll, right? However, unlike Cleveland, like everything we've talked about so far, OKC can kind of match. If they can do it, they got the guys who can pull that together. What OKC cannot do is let one of their top 2 guys, like Cleveland did, shoot 3 for 16. If Shea or J-Dub shoot 3 for 16 in this game, it is chalked. You probably lose by 40. Like, 100%. So, you have no Ched. You can't really waste any breath. Like, you have one big in Isaiah Hartenstein, but last time, I mean, when Evan Mobley and Jared Allen are throwing lobs back and forth to each other, and then you got a guy who's made 5 3-pointers on the outside, and then Dean Wade made a couple 3-pointers as well. Like, there's a lot of options, a lot of stuff going on in Cleveland that it's hard for even the best defense to stop. I mean, the Cavs scored 129 points with Donovan Mitchell shooting. He made 3 buckets. That's it, and they won by 7, right? So OKC needs to lock the freak in. Shea and J-Dub need to shoot well and play well. And then the role players need to play well. Now, this is the recipe for success for winning a championship. This is your best players play well, get role players, and then those guys play well, and then you win something. That's like, when have we seen a championship that hasn't had that happen? Like, even with the Warriors, I talk about this all the time. That Warriors team with KD and Steph, it was a good team. Like, oh man, that's crazy. Like the 3-headed dragon or whatever with him, Steph, and Clay. But they had Iggy and Sean Livingston, 2 of the best bench guys like ever, off the bench, coming in. Draymond's a great facilitator, and they came in and just spanked people. Like, the bench makes a difference. So, outside of that, there's not really much to talk about with the Thunder in terms of what they need to do. Jay and J-Dub play well. Everyone else plays well. You have a shot, right? If Donovan Mitchell is on a scorcher, it's going to be tough to stop even for the best defense in the NBA. Now, the implications for who wins this game and what that means. Unfortunately, since it's a home game and the second game of kind of this series that we got going on, if OKC wins, we don't learn a whole ton because it's like, hey, you guys lost the first time and it was away, sure. And then they win the second time, it was like, okay, well, it was just home teams winning. So Cavs won in Cleveland, Thunder won in OKC, so we don't really learn a whole ton. If the Cavs win, it says a lot about who they are. That they can beat the best team in the West, and the West has always trounced the East over the course of me watching as a fan. I mean, obviously the Celtics just won a championship, and like the Raptors won in 2019, the Bucks and stuff. But the West is always more stacked. So like there's the better, like maybe the better team comes out of the West usually, right? So if Cleveland smacks OKC in OKC, that's a big deal. It says a ton about both sides. Like, hey, the Thunder, this is a big dog game. Maybe you're not ready for it. Who knows? I'm not going to talk about like what they're going to do in the playoffs based off 2 regular season games. But when you play a team who's going to win 70-ish games, and you lose both times, and you yourself could win 70-ish games, that says a lot about where you are as a team, especially if one of those games is at home. Now, if the Cavs lose, getting to that 70 game or 70 win record is like a lot less likely because they have 5 losses. If they get 6, like 73-9 Warriors went 73-9, so they had 9 losses. So halfway through the season, if you lose tomorrow, you're at 6 losses, and then we're probably around the halfway point. So then you'd probably go 70-12. So, but you don't want to risk that. If you win this game, this is a big freaking deal. You already lost the Pacers a couple days ago. I know that they had like a really big win streak, and then the Pacers snap it, right? But I think the Cavs are going to win this game. I think OKC is going to come out swinging, but the Cavs are very, very consistent, level-headed, all around. They're goated.